Hello everybody and welcome to the second lesson in the mini music video unit that we began last time. So last time out we looked at a bit of a recap on media language, we looked at representation, and we also had a little look at how narratives are used to create engaging and purposeful videos. So we took that as a bit of a summary last time, and today what we're going to do is we're going to make a start on revisiting one of our case study videos, Emile Sande's Heaven. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to test your memory a little here, and I would like you to have a look at the pictures I'm going to show you in a second and see if it jogs your memory about the video itself. We will watch it later in the lesson, but for now, see if you can remember the chronological order of these various locations in the video. So you should see this here. They are all jumbled up, they are not in chronological order. So can you have a little think now about your understanding of the video and pause this now, pause me, and try and place those in sequence. Okay, so a little trip down memory lane, hopefully that's bringing some of it back to you there. You hopefully may have recalled that the sequence goes like this, starting at the top here, moving across, and then down here and across, finally finishing in the bottom right corner in this kind of dark and sinister tunnel. So we've got quite a range of locations here. We've got in this kind of very dark shaded apartment with the bright urban city outside. We then get this interesting low-angled shot whereby we can see Emile Sande, we can see the blue sky, and then this church spire or cathedral in the background, which is interesting. Then later on we saw the shots of her in this kind of tranquil garden that seems to be right slap bang in the middle of the kind of the urban city. Then we got lots of shots down at street level, and we'll talk about this shot again later in another lesson. More of the same we see, but this time we see a performance shot of Emily Sande singing down on the street. And if you recall, this is the very final shot where she's looking down the tunnel and we see a man at one end and she kind of turns away. Interesting sort of end shot. So that was the sequence in which they appear when we first watched the video. But what I would like you to do now, I'd like you to pause your video and have a go at this question in the yellow box down at the bottom. So just take a few minutes to write down any ideas that spring to mind about this. Now there's no right or wrong, but I want you to have a little think about the particular locations that we see in this video. Why might they be significant or relevant? Why do you think they're included? And for extra kind of added bonus points, can you think about anything maybe about the sequence? Do you have any understanding or any ideas as to why do we begin with her indoors? Why does it move through the locations it does? And finally, why do you think it might finish on this kind of this dark underground urban scene here? So have a little think about the different locations, and please write this into a short response, a paragraph or so, explain what you think maybe those locations are about. Secondly, if you can think about the order in which they appeared, do you think there's any relevance there? And keep this all together, and this will of course contribute to part of your blog post. We can have a little think about what you're seeing into these sequences and these locations. So pause now, have a go at that question, and then return when you've done. Okay, welcome back. It'd be interesting to see what you guys have thought about these ideas and what suggestions you've come up with. A couple of things you may have sort of touched on, talked about. We got at the beginning quite an interesting shot, isn't it? Seemingly perhaps she's kind of trapped or caged somehow inside with the kind of the whole world out there waiting. Seems a bit more liberating as these shots move through, the kind of the open blue skies, perhaps the garden representing some sort of tranquil spot or Garden of Eden amongst the kind of the chaos of the city. Then you get these very urban sort of street scenes, don't you, where we see lots of everyday people. And something about the end maybe feels quite sinister, doesn't it, the way that's framed and shot. But again, we'll talk about some of these later on as we go through the next lesson or two. Okay, next then, what I would like you to do is I would like you to just remind yourself, before we get into any further kind of analysis of the video itself, and we will be watching it shortly, but what I would like you to do is to start thinking about some of these terms You will be familiar with them. You can see them at the top left corner: cross-cutting, close-ups, tracking shot, low angle, etc. You can see them all there. And there are 12 different definitions scattered around the screen a little bit chaotically, right? What we would like you to do is to note down now, just simply, all you need to do is write down cross-cutting, and then next to that put the number that you think corresponds, which definition corresponds to cross-cutting, then close-up, then write the number next to it. Okay, so I want you to pause now, keep this on your screen, have a look, try and match up where you think the definition are. Just get your familiarity back with some of these terms. Be really useful when you're talking about analysing the music videos. Make sure you're using that technical terminology correctly. So just a little brush over, write down the word, match the number, and then come back when you've matched up all 12. Okay, welcome back. Right, so if you match these up correctly, it should look like this. I will let you just have a look. You'll have your PowerPoint there with you. You can see the definitions if you look back on slide 6. But ultimately, you can see the answers on there. You've got 12 cross-cutting, 5 for close-up, and so on. We've got through 3 for tracking shot. And that's just a little test there to clarify that you're quite keen and quite clear on these different terms here. Okay, so now we've got that kind of information. We've got a bit of a recollection, hopefully, of Emile Sande. Let's have a look at the actual video. Now, as we do so, what I would like you to do is be thinking for the next task, which is going to be about star image and brand image. So as you watch, try and get back into the thought process of considering what is the intended image or the brand identity here for Emile Sande. What are they trying to create? What do they want us as an audience, as viewers, to think about her? So keep that in mind while you're watching it, and that's going to lead us into the next task. Okay, so pause the video, pause me, click the YouTube link, watch the video. It takes 4 minutes, and then come back to me when you've watched that in full. Okay, but keep in mind as you watch, what are they intending? What do they want us to think about her? Okay, off you go. Okay, there we are. Welcome back. So we've watched Emile Sande's Heaven. Hopefully you're considering as you're going through about her star image and what was being created. So let's just have a little think about that. What you need to remember as you're approaching your question for the music video is that media language is used to help create that star image, that brand image. Okay, so if you recall when you first looked at Emile Sande's Heaven, you'll remember that you were told that this was her first solo song. She'd featured in lots of other music with various other artists, but always kind of in the background, never as kind of the lead solo artist. So this was a real chance for her and her production team to really establish the brand image they wanted for her, to launch her to the public, and this is what they want you to think of her. So, second main question then that you can write down your notes here. What is the intended star image created for Emile Sande? You can do this now just in bullet points if you like. But how would you summarise what you think they intended? Okay, what they intended Emile Sande to appear as. How did they want us to think about her? Not necessarily what do you think, but what do you think was the intention? What did they want you to think or feel about her as a brand or as a star? Okay, so just try and write bullet point lists, as many as you can. Take 2 minutes, write them all down, and then pause and come back to me. Okay. Okay. Now, when I was noting that down, things that kind of sprung to my mind, I think that Emile Sande, we are intended, or they intended for us to see her as somebody very socially conscious, in touch with her roots and the common people, these urban environments, very soulful, quite unique, strong, independent woman. And I think these are all things that have been specifically constructed. This is how we're supposed to view her. Much less as a sort of a pop princess, and somebody that fits this kind of criteria here. So I think this is how we're supposed to view her. You may have had something fairly similar in your own notes there. Now, what we need to think about, it's okay coming away from it and saying, right, this is how we think Emile Sande is supposed to be perceived. What we need to be able to do is say how. And this is where the media language analysis comes in. So you'll see this table here. It's on slide 11 of your PowerPoint. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to choose 3 moments, 3 scenes, okay, from the music video. Now you could just, if you like, you can rewatch the video and just pause it in the moment that you think is appropriate. And what I want you to do is just to make some notes now in your table of these things along here. What type of camera shot, what type of angle are we getting? Is it close up? Is it low angled? What are we getting? Is it an establishing shot? You know, what kind of shot is shown to you? Secondly, what do you notice about the editing? How do they move between, in that particular scene that you're talking about there? How does it move? What's the movement like? Do we dissolve? Do we fade? You know, how do we move between? Is it just a cross cut? What's going on? Third, mise en scène. So looking at the lighting, the clothing, you know, how is she dressed? How are the people in the scene? How do they appear? Anything else about the props or the setting that you can comment on? And then ultimately, finally, what effect does that have on the star image? What do the camera shots, the editing, the mise en scène from that particular moment that you've picked out, how do they impact on us? How do they make us think that she is perhaps, very true to her roots or very socially conscious or whatever it might be? Okay, so I want you to pick out 3 moments as you work through, and for each of those, each scene, talk about the camera shots and the angles, how it's edited, anything at all about mise en scène you think is relevant, and then ultimately overall what effect that creates, how we perceive her. So I want you to try and do that for 3 separate moments in the music video. You pick which 3 moments you'd like, complete that, and also remember, have that ready to be part of your blog post in terms of this revision. Okay, so pause the video now and go and try and complete that for 3 different shots. Okay, fantastic. So perhaps one thing just to say as well, maybe what you could do is just underneath where it says scene 1 or scene 2, just underneath in that box there, just type out there, or write down if you printed it off, what moment it is, what scene, just describe a little comment as to what we're actually seeing so it makes a bit more sense. But hopefully they're quite valuable notes. Now what you're going to do is you're going to use those notes for this final task, okay, which is just to do a small piece of writing. So the question is at the top: how does the video for Heaven use media language to construct Emile Sande's star image? So how is the media language used to help construct her image? So a written response, and it's just going to follow those 3 steps: a summary description of what her star image is, which we talked about before, an analysis of a key use of media language in the performance scene, so a particular aspect of media language you can pick out, and then a link to something you know about the context of the single. So for example, you could use these sentence starters in green here. Sande is portrayed as, or she is associated with values of, and you complete that. The use of X and Y, so 2 particular things you've highlighted in the media language, helps create a sense of by, and you can complete the sentence there. And then the final one: as this was the debut single of an artist formerly seen as a backing singer, it was important to, and then you need to try and complete that statement there. So there's 3 that you can use. You don't have to use those. You've got your own ideas, that's fine. But you can use those greens there to help you get started in your written response. Just a quick summary overall of how media language is constructing Emile Sande's star image. Okay, next time we're going to take it a little bit further. We're going to look in a bit more depth at the actual video, but ultimately overall, this is about understanding how media language helps construct star image. So pause me, finish that right up there. When you've finished it all, get it together in a blog post, please. Emile Sande revision. Get that posted up ready for your teacher to have a look at. Okay, thanks everybody. Bye.